authorities crack down on elephant poaching in Kenya. For the first time in over half a century, the Stars and Stripes fly over an American embassy in Havana. And the story of a legendary hip-hop band hits the big screen. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Lenore Moudou. This is Africa 54. Vincent Makori is off today. We begin in West Africa, where Nigeria's president has ordered the military to defeat the Boko Haram insurgency within 3 months. Mr. Buhari replaced the heads of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and his Chief of Defense Staff soon after taking office May 29th in an effort to re-energize the fight against Boko Haram. The militants have killed nearly 1,000 Nigerians in raids and suicide attacks since President Buhari was inaugurated, and has killed more than 10,000 Nigerians as part of a campaign to impose Islamic rule on northern Nigeria. On Thursday, Mr. Buhari urged his new military chiefs to also bring an end to armed banditry and kidnapping, saying, quote, "You need to team up with other stakeholders to come up with a well-coordinated joint effort which will bring a desired end to these insurgencies within the 3 months. Nigeria, Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and Benin are expected to soon deploy a force of more than 8,000 soldiers to fight Boko Haram. There's stunning news coming out of South Sudan today. According to a South Sudanese official in Juba, President Salva Kiir will not be going to Addis Ababa for the final phase of peace talks. This news comes just 3 days before the warring sides are expected to sign a peace deal. Cabinet Affairs Minister Martin Elias Lomoro told reporters that government negotiators have also been asked to return to South Sudan for consultations. Lomoro says the decision for President Kiir not to attend the talks was reached after a 2-day meeting of cabinet ministers and the governors of all 10 states. He says the negotiating team is being recalled so that they can debrief the government and other officials on what has been agreed and disagreed in the last week of talks. For more on this developing story, John Tanza, host and managing editor of VOA's South Sudan in Focus radio program, joins us on the phone from Addis Ababa. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Vinod.
So the president will not be going to Addis Ababa. What does this mean for the peace process?
It means a lot, because the president is the final person to sign any peace deal with the rebels. And whatever happens in Addis Ababa always depends on the final, blessings from the president of the country. You can recall that the delegates have been meeting here for the last 1.5 weeks and did not reach into any solution, because whatever they agreed on has to be passed to President Salva Kiir to look at it, and then on the other side also, Rebel leader Riek Machar has to look at it, and if they agree with it, then there will be a solution. But if President Kiir is not going to be in Addis Ababa, then there will be no signing of a peace agreement on Monday.
So then Monday, as you mentioned, is the deadline, August 17. Where do we go from here, really?
Well, that's a good question. When I was speaking to IGAD officials today, these are officials who are not authorized to speak. They told me that the IGAD Heads of State Summit, which is supposed to take place Saturday and Sunday, is going to take place. Whether President Kiir arrives in Addis Ababa or not, the summit will take place. And the recommendations of the IGAD Heads of State during this summit will be taken seriously, according to IGAD officials.
So did you have a sense that the IGAD officials that are doing the mediation are still optimistic as to coming to some type of resolutions?
Yes, they are, because as of this evening, the Ethiopian government officials are busy processing credentials for the delegates to attend the IGAD summit. And this summit will be done at the Republican Palace, that is the Ethiopian official residence of the government. And delegates have been queuing, both South Sudan government and rebels have been queuing to receive their credentials to attend this summit.
Any words from Mr. Riek Machar?
I interviewed Dr. Riek Machar this morning, and he told me that he has been waiting here from the 10th of August. He has been waiting for President Salva Kiir. In fact, they were supposed to meet yesterday and today. The two leaders of South Sudan were supposed to meet yesterday and today, and then tomorrow they will join the rest of the heads of state in the IGAD summit. But Machar told me he has been waiting, and he is ready to talk to Salva Kiir.
So what do we expect to come out of this weekend from the summit?
Well, it is unpredictable because with the development in Juba, where government officials are saying President Salva Kiir will not attend the summit, we don't know how that is going to impact the deliberations at the summit. We also have unconfirmed reports that South Sudan's Vice President, Waniga, will instead come instead of President Kiir. So the words from Juba indicate that Vice President Waniga should be arriving in Addis Ababa tomorrow. Maybe Waniga will sit in the place of President Kiir to make decisions, but that is yet to be seen.
Okay, well, John, thank you so much for reporting from Addis Ababa. And John Tanza is the host and managing editor of VOA's South Sudan in Focus radio program. And now some news first reported by VOA. A U.S. defense spokesman says the department has begun surveying 2 military installations in the United States as potential places to hold detainees currently imprisoned at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Surveyors have started work at Leavenworth, Kansas, and plan to start surveying an installation in Charlestown, South Carolina soon. But before moving the detainees, the military needs to clear a major hurdle. VOA's Carla Babb explains.
Clear! Years after President Barack Obama vowed to close it, the U.S. detention facility at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, still holds 116 prisoners captured during what the previous administration called the War on Terror. Officials say a Pentagon plan to close this prison will be handed to Congress after the congressional recess ends later this month. The State Department also remains committed to shutting it down.
This president couldn't have been clearer from day one, as I said, that he wanted to close Guantanamo Bay. Believes it's in our national security interests, and that remains a huge priority for this administration.
Some of the detainees are eligible for transfer to other countries, but legal analysts say any plan to keep the remainder somewhere in the United States has a major problem.
Congress has slammed the door on virtually any means to move individuals out of Guantanamo to the U.S.
Current laws prevent sending any of the detainees to facilities within the United States. But for the dozens deemed too dangerous to free and others ineligible for transfer, sending them all to a prison in an allied country also seems unlikely.
What allied state is going to be willing to take on our nightmare? I doubt if anyone would be able to do it, would be willing to do it.
With news of the military's site surveys, it seems the Pentagon is hedging its bets on nudging Congress to change the law. Until then, the Guantanamo facility remains open. Good. But of course, for a prison, that means the gates stay closed. Carla Babb, VOA News, the Pentagon.
U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry visited the reopened U.S. Embassy in Cuba Friday to salute the American flag as it was raised again in Havana, ceremonially ending the 50-year gap in relations between the United States and its island neighbor off the southern coast of Florida. Mr. Kerry is the first U.S. Secretary of State to visit Cuba since 1945. He was accompanied to Cuba by some members of Congress and 3 elderly U.S. Marines, now retired, who lowered the flag for the last time in Havana in January of 1961. The crowd stood as both countries' anthems were played during the ceremony. Before the flag was raised, Secretary Kerry addressed an audience of officials from both government and a large crowd of onlookers on the sun-drenched day in the Cuban capital. He said President Obama and President Castro made a courageous decision to stop being prisoners of history and to focus on the opportunities of today and tomorrow. He also looked toward the future.
And I feel at home here because this is truly a memorable occasion. A day for pushing aside old barriers and exploring new possibilities.
A little more than a year ago, the United States started to bomb Islamic State targets in Iraq. Since then, the U.S.-led coalition has hit the militant group in Iraq and Syria with more than 6,000 airstrikes. Even though the group has lost some territory, it has shown tough resilience and continued to pose a threat to vulnerable communities in the region, most recently in Turkish area close to Syrian border. VOA's Latika Hoke has our report.
The United States on Friday launched new airstrikes against Islamic State militants near Erbil in northern Iraq. U.S. defense officials say fighter jets dropped bombs on the militants close to a station that houses U.S. military trainers. Local Kurdish forces welcome any help they can get to hold off Islamic State advances, but they say they need arms.
I would like to tell the whole world that we are not doing this battle only for Kurdistan. We are doing this battle for all the international community and the whole world.
A White House spokesman on Friday said Islamic State has lost about 30% of the territory it held a year ago in Iraq and a significant portion of the area it controlled in Syria.
Coalition forces have repeatedly struck ISIL leadership targets to an extent that ISIL leadership targets no longer have a safe haven. And the United States and our coalition partners are taking steps to interrupt ISIL's finances and make it more difficult for the group to attract new foreign fighters.
Turkey recently joined military action against Islamic State, but Turkish anti-terror operations seem aimed more against the Kurdish PKK rebels. Some people in Turkish border villages are not reassured.
We fear that the government is giving up on its people here, that they leave the people on their own, like in Syria.
Airstrikes can help deter militant advances, but only temporarily, says a London-based defense analyst.
They're going to be, I suspect, crossed fingers that the airstrikes with some special forces on the ground will put a brake on the expansion of ISIS, possibly even see them reduce their area as they suffer.
But in the long run, he said, local militias need significant military help on the ground to defeat Islamic State. Latika Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Kenyan authorities crack down on elephant poaching. Stay with us.
From science and technology, here's What's New.
What's new? The largest radio telescope in the world, or it will be. It's under construction in a southwestern province in China. It's got a diameter of 500 meters. Engineer Li Di says it'll help scientists explore the endless mysteries of the universe.
We're going to study the constituents of main substances in the universe, the evolution of the universe, as well as some extreme substances and fields and their effects.
Radio telescopes are used to detect non-visible light in the quest for answers to questions that have been plaguing cosmologists for a long, long time. You know, like anything to do with dark matter or dark energy. And what about black holes? The universe is still really just one gargantuan question mark. The hope is to have this radio telescope built by September of next year with a price tag around $200 million US. For VOA's What's New, I'm Todd Gross-Hans.
My name's Carla Babb, and I work the Pentagon beat. That access helps me to do better stories. Every day it's my responsibility to collect all of the defense news. It keeps our VOA viewers informed. I get to travel all across the globe. Anything that's defense related and how to protect and keep people safe, that's where I'll go. So it's never a dull moment at the Pentagon. My name is Carla Babb. This is my beat.
Now, in a region where women often struggle to close the gender gap, Morocco stands out. Over the past 10 years, the country has enacted various laws to eliminate discrimination against women and its new constitution guarantees gender equality. But how do these laws make a difference in remote rural areas? It could be as simple as buying 2 sheep.
Fatima Ait Lauzine lives in a remote village in Morocco's Atlas Mountains. Not long ago, the only jobs women did here were household chores and helping the men in the fields. They couldn't travel anywhere on their own or manage their own money. But now, Fatima says all that has changed.
Women can go shopping at the souk. We can buy our children presents, buy them school bags, and if they are sick, we can afford to buy them medicines. And with thanks to God, we women don't have to ask or beg our husbands for money to be able to buy what we need and want. Now we are autonomous.
It all started with a simple idea: provide women with the means to start their own businesses. So in 2006, the government in Morocco and the UN's International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD, set up a microfinance service, part of the rural development project in the mountain zone of Al Haouz, where women were able to borrow enough money to each buy 2 sheep. The women joined together to form a cooperative so that they could consolidate their resources and manage their sheep business together. They sold some of their sheep during Eid al-Adha, the main religious festival, and used the wool to produce Berber carpets, which are sold as far away as Marrakesh. In just 8 years, the number of sheep have grown tenfold, and the women's new earning power, combined with other project-related activities, have contributed to a near 60% increase in household income. Fatima's husband, Hussein Ait Manzour, is very pleased with his wife's new role in the family, and like the other men in this town, he now accepts her as an equal.
Now it's not like the old times when the man was the only source of income. We had to loan to buy clothes for our children, but now everyone benefits from the cooperative's revenue. They have their sheep, they have everything they need, they don't lack anything anymore.
Najia Al-Harwat is also part of the cooperative. She says that working together is the key to their success.
We pool our efforts together and trust we can make it a successful enterprise for ourselves and our families. Without, we would go back to the moment when we had nothing.
These women have no intention of turning back. In fact, they're working to take their business a step further. With the income from their sheep, they bought beehives and olive trees. Najia was trained how to produce honey and olive oil, and then taught the others to do the same, selling their products in the market. Now they're ready for what might be the most significant step yet. In a few weeks' time, they will start literacy classes, not just to help them further their business goals, but to pave the way, they say, for all women in the region who want to take charge of their own destinies. The IFAD-supported project has benefited more than 112,000 people, creating some 200 community-based associations and cooperatives, 55 of which are made up of women like Fatima.
Earlier this week, the world marked World Elephant Day. Conservationists are hoping to raise awareness of the plight of elephants and focus on greater protection. In eastern Kenya's game reserve, local communities live side by side with wild animals, but in recent years, there has been an increase in poaching activities. As Mohammed Yusuf reports from the town of Somburu, the government agencies have increased patrols to nab those behind the crimes.
There is a constant police presence here in the hunt for ivory sellers and buyers. But behind this hill and beneath the ground lies one of many ivory tusks buried in the ground. Here we are shown one of the 3 tusks this poacher claims to have in his possession.
It's been buried 3 years. We did that because we were afraid of the Criminal Investigation Department. There are so many of them here. We don't have any other way to sell this ivory tusk. That's when we decided to tell this guy to look for U.S. buyers.
In March this year, Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta banned 15 tons of elephant ivory as part of an effort to curb poaching. There are other efforts being made to curb poaching in the Eastern Reserve. Conservationist organizations like Lewa and other donors are giving back something to the communities where these animals live. There's a feeling here that this school will transform these children's lives through education.
Everything is linked to conservation, linked to wildlife, and it really helps a lot in terms of stopping poaching, reducing poaching, and people to understand that wildlife, there are benefit to them.
Lela Kinyaga, a community elder, agrees.
There's a lot of benefit these animals can bring while they are alive than when they are killed, because it only benefits the one who killed it.
But for poachers like Letopas, it will be another day risking his life and looking for a buyer. Not sure how long it will take him to sell the last 3 remaining elephant tusks. But he's well aware he's headed for an uncertain future. Mohammed Yusuf for VOA News, Samburu, Kenya.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, the big screen version of a groundbreaking hip-hop group. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. Central African Republic residents are relieved after UN mission chief is sacked in light of a string of allegations of child sex abuse by peacekeepers. In Egypt, heat wave toll raises to more than 70 killed, with temperatures reaching 46 degrees Celsius. In Nigeria, Togolese refugees seek political asylum in the country after 10 years of exile in Benin. Finally, in Rwanda, the International Committee of the Red Cross uses mobile technology to help reunite families that escaped violence in Burundi. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has stirred a social media storm after he made an unguarded remark into the microphone during a press conference. Lavrov let slip the less than diplomatic language Tuesday as he and his Saudi counterpart Adel Al-Jubeir met the press after failing to resolve their disagreement on the fate of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Reaction on social media included a contribution from ex-U.S. Ambassador Michael McFaul, saying Lavrov used to accuse him of undiplomatic language. Next up, NWA biopic Straight Outta Compton drops in theaters.
Your songs glamorize gangs and drugs.
Our art is a reflection of our reality.
Straight Outta Compton is set to wrap up a storm at box office. The film is produced by former NWA members Ice Cube and Dr. Dre. The movie shows how the group emerged from the streets of Compton and is filled with NWA's controversial songs, violence, and fights against the authorities. If the actor playing Ice Cube looks familiar, you're not imagining things. The legendary rapper is played by O'Shea Jackson Jr., who is Ice Cube's son. And finally, video of a prank by one of the world's most famous footballers goes viral. Disguised with a beard, Ronaldo approaches people passing by, asking them to play football with him. The video was created to launch Rock Live Life Loud, the footballer's new headphone consumer electronics company. The concept for the video was to take the biggest athlete in the world and hide him in plain sight. It has racked up 9 million views and counting. And that's what's trending today, Eleanor.
Thank you so much, Esther. Now, that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa, between 300 and 600 UTC, Monday through Friday. We end our show today with the sound of Ivorian music sensation Serge Benoît in his award-winning song, Kabableke. Enjoy the rhythm of Coupé Décalé, and good night from Washington.
J'ai donné des mains pour m'imposer, mon coupé décalé confirmé, oh. Ce n'est pas ma faute, c'est Dieu qui m'a donné. Partout en Afrique, on danse mon coupé décalé, oh. Beno. Sing it. Africa, aïe, moi je t'aime. L'amour est, aïe, moi j'adore. Les femmes, aïe, je vous aime. Bisous, aïe, à tous mes femmes. Sing it. Hello, mon poupée décalé confirmé, oh. Ce n'est pas ma photo, c'est Dieu qui m'a donné. Montre-moi comment tu danses, montre-moi comment tu bouges. Ma chérie, faut pas me toucher, sinon yaka 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 ya, ayaka yaka yaka ya, ayaka yaka yaka ya, ayaka mayaka 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 maya. Kababereke, makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa. Sing it, makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa. Kababereke, makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa. Gribata. Makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa, makababereke, mabringa mabringa. Africa, aïe, moi je t'aime. L'amour est, aïe, moi j'adore. Les femmes, aïe, je vous aime. Bisous.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music. Ali.
On
VOA.
qubanaha VOA waxaan ku soo gudbinnaa qubanayaal goosgoosa oo xiiso badan oo ku saabsan arrimaha Soomaaliya, Maraykanka iyo caalamkaba.
haddaba qubanaha VOA-da kala soco website-keenna voasomali.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories.
Here's a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.
Real talk, real issues, the real Africa. It's time to get the scoop, Monday through Friday on VOA. Find your time zone and get the scoop.